We've already learned that a healthy diet goes a long way to prevent or even reverse diabetes. It worked for Nancy, and it can work for you too. Healthy eating is actually pretty simple. Foods can be divided into 3 groups: green light, yellow light, and red light foods. If you want to transform your health, you need to eat green light foods. These foods are packed with powerful healing nutrients. Brenda, can you tell us more about green light foods?
Absolutely. Green light foods are unprocessed or minimally processed whole plant foods. They are the richest sources of many protective nutrients that heal the body in more ways than we can count. When you have diabetes or prediabetes, your body is like a house on fire. What you put into your mouth can serve as gasoline or water. Green light foods are like water on the fire, fighting the flames and restoring balance. Green light foods are full of fiber, which is a plant superstar. Fiber is only found in plant foods, not in animal products. Fiber is the carbohydrate in plants that can't be digested or absorbed. Some people call it nature's broom because it keeps food moving through the gastrointestinal tract, helps keeping it clean and healthy. But fiber does more than preventing constipation. It also protects against obesity, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and a variety of gastrointestinal disorders. Even though your body can't absorb fiber, it desperately needs it. Fiber curbs insulin resistance and helps control blood sugars. The health benefits of fiber are greatest with intakes of at least 25 grams per day for women and 38 grams for men. Although the average American eats only 15 grams of fiber each day, people eating plant-based diets average closer to 40 to 60 grams per day. So how can you get more fiber? By eating green light foods. These foods include vegetables, legumes, and that's beans, peas, and lentils, fresh fruits, unrefined whole grains, and whole food fats. So let's take a closer look at each of these food groups, starting with vegetables. Vegetables provide the highest number of nutrients for the fewest number of calories. That means they're very nutrient dense. They're the richest sources of disease-fighting vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. Green leafy vegetables are at the very top of the list. In a study that surveyed over 200,000 people, it was found that eating at least a cup and a half of green leafy vegetables each day reduced diabetes risk by 14%. Try to eat a wide variety of non-starchy vegetables which are grown above the ground. They are low in calories and carbohydrates, but very high in nutrients. Starchy vegetables, such as potatoes and corn, are calorically dense, so portion control is important for people with high blood sugars. Try to get at least 5 or 6 servings of non-starchy vegetables each day. Include both raw and cooked vegetables because there are different advantages to each type. The next green light foods are legumes, which are beans, peas, and lentils. Legumes have been found to reduce risk of chronic disease such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and premature death. In a study of over 60,000 women, those who ate the most legumes were 38% less likely to develop type 2 diabetes than those who hardly ate any legumes at all. Beans, peas, and lentils are high in fiber. They're high in protein, iron, zinc, and many other nutrients. They have a very low glycemic index, which means they're very gentle on blood sugars. A study published in the Archives of Internal Medicine found that people with type 2 diabetes who ate a cup of legumes each day experienced significant blood sugar improvements within just a few short months.
You know, Brenda, many of my clients have found that eating beans not only improves their blood sugar for that meal afterwards, but it actually improves their blood sugar spiking after the next meal and the next meal and even the next meal.
I'm not surprised. We actually even served beans for breakfast in the Marshall Islands, and we found our people loved them. You know, the Marshallese people eat mainly processed foods and animal products, so they average only about 5 to 10 grams of fiber a day. And as a result, most people have very infrequent bowel movements, sometimes once a week or even less. As you can imagine, when our participants started eating these really fiber-rich diets, their regularity improved a lot. And we actually had participants who were having a bowel movement once every week or two. And all of a sudden, they're having bowel movements every single day. And for some, it actually scared them. They thought there was something wrong with them. So it was a pleasant surprise for them to learn that this was absolutely normal. Some people find beans really hard to digest, especially when they first start eating them. It's best to add small amounts and gradually increase your intake. This allows time for your gut flora to adjust to all the additional fiber. Be sure to soak and cook your beans very thoroughly. And the other thing we find is small skinless legumes such as red lentils, split mung beans, and split peas are actually easier to digest, so try including them in the mix. If you don't have time to cook beans from scratch, canned beans and frozen beans are also nutritious, convenient alternatives. To reduce the sodium in these foods, choose low sodium or sodium-free varieties. You can also rinse canned beans in a strainer to get rid of some of the extra salt.
Many people are concerned that a plant-based diet doesn't have enough protein. Many fad diets include large amounts of protein, especially from meat. Brenda, how can we make sense of this protein question, and how can we make sure we're getting the right amount?
That's such an important topic, Wes. Protein is an essential nutrient, but the average American consumes more than is necessary. And people who follow high protein diets, such as the Atkins diet or the paleo diet, may actually be getting too much. There was a very recent 2014 study that found that people with the highest protein intakes have a 5-fold increase in diabetes mortality. High protein intakes are also associated with an increase in cancer death and overall mortality. But what's really interesting is that these mortality associations only applied to animal protein. The disease risk disappeared if the protein was from plants. Excess protein, especially animal protein, is associated with a decline in kidney function. This can be especially harmful for people with diabetes who are already prone to decreased kidney function. Plant protein is less toxic than animal protein and much better for kidney function. And while animal protein raises cholesterol, plant protein actually lowers it. High protein intakes can also adversely affect bone health, especially when calcium intakes are insufficient. It's actually fairly easy to get enough protein from a plant-based diet. What we need is about 10 to 15% of calories from protein, and almost all plant foods fall within this range. 20 to 40% of calories in legumes and non-starchy vegetables come from protein. 8 to 17% of calories from grains, nuts, and seeds comes from protein. And the only foods that really consistently fall below the 10% mark are fruits and some non-starchy vegetables. So really, if you eat sufficient calories from a reasonable mix of whole plant foods, it's difficult to come up short on protein. Rich Roll is an ultra-distance athlete. He was named one of the 25 fittest men in the world. At the age of 40, Rich was a sedentary and overweight person. But after he adopted a plant-based diet, Rich lost 50 pounds and began his fitness journey. Rich isn't alone. There are many athletes who are fueled by plants. Carl Lewis, a former Olympic sprinter who won 9 medals for the U.S., Dave Scott, who won 6 Ironman World Championships, and Martina Navratilova, one of the greatest tennis players of the 20th century. These athletes are living proof that animal protein is not necessary for strength or athletic performance. You can get plenty of protein from plants.
You know, Brenda, I can think of another plant-based athlete you forgot to mention.
Who's that?
You.
Oh, well, I'm not a competitive athlete, but fitness really is part of my daily life. And at 55, I don't really feel a whole lot different than I did at 25. I can only hope that I can still do handstands and headstands when I'm 85. But let's get back on track with the green light foods. The next food group is fresh fruit. Fruit is full of vitamins, minerals, fiber, phytochemicals, all of which boost your immune system and improve your health in many ways. Fruit is nature's way of satisfying our sweet tooths. Some of the low-carb leaders warn people against fruit. I think this is a huge mistake. It's an important part of a healthy diet, but you do need to be aware that too much fruit can actually spike blood sugars, especially if you eat too many calories. We'll talk about how to avoid this in the upcoming meal balancing module. The next green light food group is unrefined whole grains, which we'll call green light grains. Many diabetics are scared of carbohydrates, but not all carbs are created equal. Green light grains carry many nutrients. Their high fiber content prevents them from spiking blood sugars as drastically as refined grains. Research shows that replacing refined grains with whole grains reduces diabetes risk. Unrefined whole grains are intact grains that have not been processed in any way. Examples include quinoa, brown, red, or black rice, wild rice, barley, rye, oat groats, millet, wheat, kamut, and spelt berries. Starchy vegetables like corn, potatoes, and winter squash, they actually fit better into the whole grain group than they do the vegetable group. They have more carbohydrates than non-starchy vegetables, but are still a very valuable part of a healthy diet. Colorful starchy vegetables such as yams, squash, and purple potatoes provide more phytochemicals and antioxidants than their paler counterparts. There are conflicting viewpoints about the amount of carbohydrate that diabetics should eat. Some people with diabetes strictly limit and count carbs. Other diets allow unlimited carbohydrate consumption as long as carbs are plant-based. I don't think either of these approaches is actually optimal for people with diabetes. I believe it's important to focus on both the type of starch you're eating and the amount. We'll discuss this more in the meal balancing section. The final green light group is whole food fats. Examples include nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, and whole coconut. These healthy fats are packaged with many protective nutrients and phytochemicals. Some diabetes diets advocate very low fat consumption and even discourage people from eating healthy fats. But there's a reason why nature provides whole food fats for us. These foods enhance the flavor of our meals and they leave us feeling more satisfied. They also maximize the absorption of fat-soluble nutrients, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. But high-fat foods are very calorically dense, meaning that they provide a lot of calories in a rather small volume of food. So we want to control portion sizes, which we'll discuss more in an upcoming video. Green light foods have an incredible healing potential for your blood sugars, your heart, and every aspect of your health. That's why I recommend getting 80 to 90% of your calories from green light foods. Why not choose these healing foods today? When it comes to driving and when it comes to eating, green means go.
overweight, morbidly obese for 19 years of my life. Since I started having our children, I gained a considerable amount of weight, and I was over 100 pounds overweight. And since last year, May 15th, I've lost 100 pounds by the grace of God. And life is very different right now, and it feels wonderful. My mom cooked very good food, greens and vegetables, and there wasn't processed food, so I had a really good beginning. But going to college and things changed, and then getting married, my habits became poor. I would not always eat breakfast, and I would go long periods without eating, not intentionally, but just because of my schedule. And so once all my responsibilities were done, then I would sit and I would eat, and those were habits of disease. It was easy for me to eat out because I homeschool my children, I run an in-home business, and wanted to foster health and healthy eating, but it was just convenient to have at least one meal out of the house. Our society makes it very easy for you to be overweight. And unfortunately, people don't make a change unless something negative occurs. How am I going to be in 40 years? It's what I do today that's going to shape tomorrow. The devil had told me that this is how it's supposed to be, and not to worry about it, that everyone can't be regular weight, everyone can't be skinny or small, and just to accept where I was. I literally heard that voice tell me just to accept. You're okay the way you are. Don't try to change. That was a lie. And God has something better for me. My mind was programmed to have these habits of disease. I was used to going long periods without eating. I was used to not moving consistently. I was used to just mindlessly eating whatever is there. And I became more intrinsically motivated and to really be mindful of what I'm doing. Some of the habits of health I started was not only healthy exercise. We all know about healthy exercise and healthy eating, but when we miss out on healthy sleep, we miss out on a healthy mind frame. And when I say healthy mind, I'm speaking about our spiritual walk with God. That is very crucial in our overall health, is our spiritual time with God. I have a lot of produce. I eat a lot of green vegetables. I eat some fruit, but when I'm in a weight loss mode, I really limit my sugar. But fruit is good for you. It's healthy for you. But when you are 100 plus pounds overweight, I kept it very much the produce. I will eat, have protein. You can have a vegan protein plant-based shake, which is really important to give you that satiety. And I eat frequently, every 2 to 3 hours. I'm eating a complex carbohydrate and a plant-based protein, soy or other vegetable-based protein in that combination. I exercise 6 days a week. And some people think, wow, I can't do that. Can't is not in my vocabulary. In order to keep our bodies healthy, we have to move. So I don't make the excuses anymore in saying what I can't. Everyone has a busy schedule. I used to say there's no one that has a busier schedule than me. Homeschooling 3 daughters, running a care home for elderly in my home, managing employees, having hospice and other personnel coming into your personal space has its challenges, but there's benefits too. So regardless of what your situation is, you can make time for health. I feel wonderful now. I feel calmer. I feel free. You can be well, and you can be regular weight. You can be a healthy weight. You can feel good, and you can live life more abundantly, and it is possible. And the best is yet to come, as the best is yet to come for me. This is a lifelong journey. These are habits of life. This is not a short-term journey. This is something that we have to practice every day, 24 hours a day. It's not a diet that you're on, it's a lifestyle.
That last section got me excited about green light foods. I like learning about nutrition, especially when I see it changing people's lives. Brenda, this is a topic that you're especially passionate about also. Tell us about your personal experience in fighting diabetes in the Marshall Islands.
In 2006, I partnered with Canvasback Missions to do a diabetes lifestyle intervention trial. As the lead dietitian, my role was to develop and implement the nutrition part of the program. Our team was actually sent to Guam to train with Wes, since his program there was already well established. Our research compared standard diabetes care with intensive lifestyle intervention. We had 5 overlapping cohort groups with 169 participants. These people were used to eating the typical Marshallese diet. For breakfast, that might mean donuts or sweet pancakes. Children often for breakfast would have ramen noodles with dry Kool-Aid powder sprinkled on top. I actually saw a child putting some white powder on top of the ramen noodles, and I asked the Marshallese person next to me, what were they putting on top of their ramen noodle Kool-Aid mix? And the person said, oh, that was a Sinamoto, and a Sinamoto is pure MSG. Very shocking. For lunch and dinner, people generally eat white sticky rice with Spam or some other meat on top, and they would wash it down with something called luau. The number one ingredient of luau was high fructose corn syrup. Very few people ever ate any fresh, whole foods. But we actually had some brave participants who were willing to give it a try. Our intervention group started eating a whole food, plant-based diet and exercising after their meals. For the first 2 weeks of the program, this group ate 3 meals a day at our clinic, and the success was remarkable. In just 2 weeks, the participants' blood sugars dropped an average of 71 points. They lost an average of 5 pounds, and their levels of inflammation significantly dropped. Many participants noticed the pain in their legs, arms, and joints either disappeared or dramatically improved. It was much easier for them to walk, and many of them couldn't even walk across the room when they started. Close to 90% of the group were able to completely discontinue oral medications for diabetes, high cholesterol, and for blood pressure. Almost everyone reported increased energy. The study continued, and so did the health benefits. By the end of the program, the average A1C drop was about 2 points, and many of the participants actually dropped 3 or 4 points. Several of them no longer fit the criteria for diabetes. There were only a few participants who started the program on insulin, but all of them soon had to discontinue its use. In the Marshall Islands, the view of diabetes is very grim. Many of our participants had seen their family members lose vision or lose their limbs as a result of poorly controlled blood sugars. That's why it was so rewarding to see these people realize that there was actually hope for change and that they could live full and healthy lives.
This story brings back many good memories of my work on the islands too. And it's just one more example of the powerful benefits of whole plant-based foods. But now that we know about green light foods, we need to learn about the other types. What can you teach us about yellow light foods?
Yellow means slow, so we need to approach these yellow light foods a little bit cautiously. These foods aren't nearly as nutritious as green light foods. That's why I recommend eating them sparingly. Only a small percentage of your calories should come from these foods. In fact, depending on your health status and your food preferences, you may want to avoid some yellow light foods altogether. Let's take a look at what these foods are. The first yellow light category is processed whole grains. This group includes whole wheat or whole grain bread, pasta or crackers, whole grain cereal, and whole wheat couscous. These grains have been processed in some way, but without removing the bran or germ. They're much healthier than foods made with white flour, but because they're still refined, they tend to spike blood sugars more than green light grains. Processed grains can be part of a healthy diet, but they need to be used cautiously, especially by people who are overweight or obese or who have type 2 diabetes. We'll discuss this more in the meal balancing section. Many processed fruits and veggies have added sugar, salt, or fat. Examples include canned or dried fruits with added sugar, sweetened applesauce, and canned and salted vegetables. All of these choices are yellow light foods. It's best to stick with fresh or frozen fruits, which will be more gentle on your blood sugars. If you purchase fruits in cans or jars, be sure they have no added sugar. Processed vegetables can lose many nutrients and are often high in sodium and fat. Frozen vegetables are great green light choices. Imitation meats such as soy burgers, soy hot dogs, and textured vegetable protein are much lower in cholesterol and saturated fats than real meat products. They're convenient to eat and can be helpful in transitioning to a plant-based diet. But it's important to be careful about which substitutes you choose. So try to limit meat substitutes to a few times each week and look for products that are lower in sodium and fat. Some of the healthier products are made from whole foods such as lentils, black beans, quinoa, brown rice, and vegetables. They can be really good options, but keep an eye on the sodium content. As we learned earlier, it's best to get our fat from whole plant sources such as olives, avocados, nuts, and seeds. However, if you choose to use oils, it should be very sparingly. Oils have the lowest nutrient density of any food. This means that they have the fewest nutrients per calorie. They are pure fat, so they're more concentrated in calories than any other food. Just 1 tablespoon of oil has 120 calories. If you do use oils, choose extra virgin, cold press forms of olive, avocado, flax or hemp seed oil, organic canola oil, or an essential fatty acid oil blend. Coconut oil is also an option, but it's very high in saturated fat, so you want to use it more sparingly. Avoid cooking with omega-3 rich oils or essential fatty acid oil blends. These oils should not be used for cooking and should be reserved for salads. Animal products fall into the yellow and red light categories. For people who aren't vegetarian or vegan, the yellow light animal products are better choices than red light animal products. But Wes and I don't promote these foods at all. Personally, I've chosen to completely eliminate animal products, not only for my own health, but also because of my concern for animals and for the environment. We'll actually discuss this more in an upcoming video. We do need to remember that small amounts of animal products are used by people in many healthy populations, including those of the blue zones, which are the top few communities on the planet where people live the longest, healthiest lives. However, one common thread woven throughout all blue zones is that the diets are plant-based. The vast majority of their calories come from plant foods. There's actually a spectrum of healthy food choices. On one end, we have whole plant-based green light foods, and on the other end, we have the worst of the worst red light foods. The more choices you make towards green light end of the spectrum, the healthier you will be. But health is a journey that happens one step at a time. If you're frequently eating red light foods like processed or red meats, it's a step in the right direction to replace them with white meats such as poultry or fish and only eat it once or twice a week. Well, primarily eating green light foods. If you're already used to eating a primarily plant-based diet, consider eliminating these yellow light meats completely. Wes and I believe that moving towards a whole food, completely plant-based diet is the best option for personal health and for the health of the planet. But we understand that it isn't an easy choice for everyone. So if you prefer to consume some animal products, it's important for you to know which are the most healthful. With that said, let's discuss organic, fat-free, or low-fat dairy products. These foods don't have as much saturated fat or cholesterol as full-fat dairy, and organic forms are safer than regular dairy products. However, if you do use these dairy products, it should be sparingly. Even though they're low in fat, they've been associated with an increased risk for some chronic diseases, especially prostate cancer. The most healthful choice in this category is probably organic non-fat yogurt, which contains flora shown to be beneficial for gut health. Of course, non-dairy fermented and cultured foods, such as soy yogurt or nut cheeses, are even better options. Your best bet for eggs are those that are free-range and rich in omega-3 fatty acids. The hens producing these eggs are fed flax or fish, and this significantly boosts their content of DHA. Of course, all eggs are high in saturated fat, cholesterol, and animal protein. Remember that egg yolk is where the cholesterol and saturated fat are at, so using more egg whites and fewer yolks reduces the fat and cholesterol content. Cold water fish such as trout, mackerel, herring, salmon, and water-packed tuna contain omega-3 fatty acids, which boost brain function and reduce inflammation and protect against heart disease. However, many fish contain heavy metals such as mercury and other dangerous environmental contaminants such as dioxin. The Environmental Working Group provides an excellent online guide to seafood. But you don't need to eat fish to get omega-3s. Fish actually don't make EPA and DHA. They get it at some point along the food chain from a plant in the ocean called microalgae. DHA and EPA supplements made from cultured microalgae are now widely available. You can also get plant omega-3s from things like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and walnuts. White meats such as chicken and turkey are generally better options than red meats, but they're no health heroes. When it comes to poultry, legs, thighs, and wings are fattier than chicken breast, and all chicken is higher in fat with the skin on. Fried chicken is less healthful than lean red meat cooked without added fat. If you do eat white meat, leave aside the skin and choose the leanest cuts such as chicken breast. Make sure to buy organic products so you bypass the hormones and antibiotics that are used in conventionally raised animals. Remember to choose yellow light foods with caution. Green means go, yellow means slow, and red means no. In the next video, we'll take a look at some foods that are better left out of our diets altogether.
Several years ago, I was hit by a truck because I was running across the street when I didn't have the right-of-way. Before I knew what was happening, I had jumped up on the hood, slid across, and landed safely on the other side. The only thing that got run over was all the groceries I'd been carrying. It ended up being a funny story, but it could have ended very tragically. Sometimes it's a little inconvenient to obey the rules of the road, but these rules are designed to protect us. And so are the rules of nutrition. Green means go, yellow means slow, and red means no. Red light foods are foods that should be greatly minimized or avoided altogether. Brenda, what can you tell us about red light foods?
Well, first of all, that was quite a story, Wes. I'm really glad that you were not hurt. Remember the analogy that when you have a disease like diabetes, it's kind of like your body is a house on fire. Green light foods are like the water on the fire. Red light foods are like the gasoline. These foods raise blood sugars, promote inflammation, raise cholesterol and triglycerides, promote weight gain, and significantly increase the risk of many different diseases. Ideally, red light food should be completely avoided, but if you do choose to eat them, please make sure it's on a very limited basis. The first red light food group is refined grains. When a kernel of wheat is refined to produce white flour, we remove almost everything of value to human health. Grains are made up of three main components: bran, germ, and endosperm. Refining removes two out of these three. The first is the bran, where most of the fiber is, and the second is the germ, which it really is the storehouse of nutrients for the kernel of wheat. What's left is the endosperm, otherwise known as starch. This process removes about 75% of the vitamins and minerals, 90% of the fiber, and 95% of the phytochemicals that the wheat kernel originally contained. But it doesn't stop there. Nobody sits down and eats a bowl of white flour. Before we eat the flour, we add fat, sugar, salt, flavors, preservatives, and colors to the flour, and then we eat it. We find refined grains in breads, bagels, cereals, pasta, cakes, cookies, pies, pastries, crackers, pretzels, and other baked goods. Sometimes nutrients are added back to the flour in a process called enrichment, but the end product is still missing the fiber, the phytochemicals, and many vitamins and minerals. So although enrichment is desirable, it's a very distant second choice to leaving the grain intact in the first place. That's why we've encouraged you to eat green light grains. But unfortunately, the average American eats about 6 servings of refined grains every day and less than 1 serving of whole grains. Close to 90% of our grain intake and 70% of our total calories comes from refined grains. Refined grains contribute to low-grade inflammation in the body. They're broken down to sugar, so once absorbed, their impact is similar. Refined grains are linked to increased abdominal fat, atherosclerosis, diabetes, and early mortality. Refined carbohydrates, including both starches and sugars, should be greatly minimized in the diet. Be sure to get the vast majority of your starches from green light grains and a smaller percentage from yellow light grains. If you do eat red light grains, be sure it's a very small amount, no more than 1 or 2 servings each day. Refined sugars such as white sugar, brown sugar, syrups, jam, jelly, candy, and sweet drinks such as soda are even more damaging to health than refined grains. Of course, many refined grain products have large amounts of sugar added. The average American eats about 30 teaspoons of sugar every day. This is about 480 calories, or almost 25% of calories in a 2,000 calorie diet. Close to half of this excess sugar comes from soft drinks. Much of the sugar comes from high fructose corn syrup, which is even more unhealthful than cane sugar or table sugar. Excess sugar consumption wreaks havoc in the body in multiple ways. It contributes to weight gain, high triglycerides, insulin resistance, and inflammation, which in turn increases the risk for many diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. The effects of fructose are even more pronounced than that of glucose. In fact, fructose has been shown to increase the formation of advanced glycation end products 8 times more than glucose. AGEs accelerate almost every disease process known to mankind and contribute to aging. It's so critical to minimize refined sweets and foods with added sugars. Of the 60,000 foods available in grocery stores, 80% of them are spiked with added sugar. That's another reason why it's so important to eat whole foods and to read the labels of the packaged foods you do eat. It's very natural to crave sweet foods, but nature provides them in much healthier forms. Your health will greatly benefit if you replace your usual sweets with whole fruit. Try making fruit smoothies or ice cream with frozen fruit like bananas and strawberries and a little nut milk in the blender. I replace sugar in almost all of my baking, including cookies, bars, muffins, and raw treats with dried fruits like dates and prunes and pears, which provide valuable nutrients and fiber. With a little practice, healthy sweets can become very satisfying. At 120 calories per tablespoon, oils are full of fat but are very low in nutrients. Green light fats come from whole foods such as avocados, nuts, seeds, and olives. Yellow light fats come from extra virgin cold-pressed oils. They aren't as nutritious as high-fat whole foods, but they have more vitamin E and phytochemicals than regular oils. Virgin cold-pressed oils are extracted physically without chemical manipulation. Non-virgin oils are refined even further and often undergo chemical treatment. Our grocery store shelves are filled with too many processed packaged foods to count. Processed foods make up 70% of the American diet, from frozen dinners to baking mixes, margarines, canned goods, chips, microwave popcorn, cookies, and many other snack foods. These foods meet us at every turn. But although they're popular and convenient, processed foods are loaded with empty calories. Many of them are full of chemicals and food toxins. Healthy foods, once processed, can do more harm than good. Packaged foods often contain trans fats, which increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, even more than saturated fats do. Trans fats are created by adding hydrogen to vegetable oils under pressure to turn them into solid fats. But research has found trans fats to be so dangerous that in 2008, New York City actually banned them from being served to the public. Thankfully, the FDA is now taking steps to ban trans fats completely. This simple change would prevent an estimated 20,000 heart attacks per year. But unfortunately, some trans fats are still available, so we need to take the initiative to ban them from our own diets. Make sure to read nutrition labels. Even if a product claims to be trans-free, this might not be true. Products with less than half a gram of trans per serving still qualify as being called trans-free. The best way to ensure a packaged food does not contain trans fats is to read the ingredient list. If you see the word shortening or partially hydrogenated oil, the food contains trans fat, even if it says trans-free. If you are eating out, there is no foolproof way to avoid trans fats. However, if you avoid deep fried foods and stick to healthy vegetarian options, you'll actually minimize your chances of getting any trans fats in your meal. Also ask for olive oil instead of margarine. Fried foods are loaded with fat, calories, and sodium. When we submerge our foods in pure fat, we triple the calories. For example, a large baked potato has about 220 calories. Turn it into French fries, and the same potato contains almost 700 calories, 480 of which are pure fat. It's not just the calories that are the issue. Many foods that are fried in cheap oils contain trans fats. Also, when oils hit their smoke point, very high temperatures, which often happens with deep frying, toxic byproducts or toxic compounds are formed that increase oxidative stress and contribute to disease processes. For anyone struggling with metabolic problems, these oils should be avoided completely. The next red light group is cheese and full-fat dairy. While these foods are staples in the Western diet, they're loaded with fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol. High-fat dairy products increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and many other illnesses. Conventional dairy products contain hormones that promote hormone-dependent cancers such as breast, ovarian, and prostate cancer. Dairy sometimes contains traces of antibiotics, pesticides, and other toxins. Some research also suggests that dairy consumption may increase the risk of type 1 diabetes and other autoimmune diseases in some individuals. Although we've been taught to believe that dairy consumption is necessary for bone health, this is just simply untrue. It's true that dairy products are high in calcium, but that doesn't make them essential foods any more than it does moose milk or deer milk, which incidentally have about twice as much calcium as cow's milk. We get plenty of calcium from plant foods such as dark green leafy vegetables, tofu, legumes, and fortified plant-based products. You can also protect bone health by reducing the amount of sodium you eat, which will help prevent calcium loss, and also by getting regular exercise, which strengthens your bones. Don't let the dairy industry fool you. You don't need milk to be healthy or strong. If you do choose to use dairy, remember that yellow light, organic, fat-free, or low-fat products are better options than full-fat, non-organic products. Red meat such as beef, lamb, pork, and veal is high in saturated fat and cholesterol. Red meats dramatically increase the risk of many diseases, including diabetes, some forms of cancer, heart disease, and premature death. A National Institutes of Health study found that when people increased their usual red meat consumption by about half a serving per day, which is only the size of about a half a deck of cards, it's about an ounce and a half, they had 48% higher risk for developing diabetes in the following 4 years, while people who decreased their red meat consumption had a reduced risk. If you're just beginning your transition towards a more plant-based diet and you want a reasonable substitute, try some of the amazing veggie meat replacements. Although they're high in sodium, they are much lower in fat, and they're also cholesterol-free. Processed meats such as wieners, salami, sausages, ham, bologna, bacon, Spam are far worse than unprocessed red meats. According to the Nurses' Health Study, which followed over 120,000 people for 28 years, eating just one serving of processed red meat a day was associated with a 20% increased risk of dying during the study. One serving is equal to 1 ounce of processed meat or a half an ounce of bacon. Not only are processed meats full of saturated fat and cholesterol, but they also have extremely high sodium levels and are often full of unhealthy chemicals that extend their shelf life. The American Institute for Cancer Research recommends that we limit red meat and completely avoid processed meat. And that concludes our discussion on red light foods. Remember, nutrition guidelines are designed to protect us. Healthy food is powerful medicine. The more you invest in quality nutrition, the more your health will thank you. So fill your plate with green light foods today.
Does the thought of living a healthy lifestyle ever seem overwhelming to you? There are so many things to remember, so many new habits to form. Have you ever wanted a simple solution? Wouldn't it be great if you could just flip a switch to turn health on or to turn disease off? Just like you turn on and off the light. Believe it or not, you can. Inside your genetic makeup are thousands of health switches and disease switches. You have the power to turn them on or off. It's not science fiction. It's fact. And it's called epigenetics. Epigenetics comes from the Greek word epi, which means over or outside of, and genetics. It refers to the factors that influence gene expression, independent of the genes themselves. You may have learned in biology class that your genes will determine your destiny. You inherit 23 chromosomes from your father and 23 from your mother. They might be good genes, they might be bad genes, but there's nothing you can do about it. Well, it turns out that's not really true. Although we can't alter our DNA, we can change the way it expresses itself. To put it simply, we can turn good genes on and bad genes off. Let's look at a few examples. Each year, almost 30,000 American men die of prostate cancer. 1 out of every 6 men will develop this disease. Prostate cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in men. This devastating illness can teach us an important lesson about epigenetics. Dean Ornish, a highly respected physician and researcher, was curious to see if healthy lifestyle habits could influence gene expression in prostate cancer. He spearheaded a study that followed 31 men with low-grade prostate cancer for 3 months. These men had opted out of traditional treatment methods such as chemo and radiation. Dr. Ornish's plan was simple. For 3 months, the men did 4 things. Ate a healthy plant-based diet, exercised for 30 minutes, 6 days per week, practiced stress management techniques, and attended weekly support groups. The participants underwent genetic testing before the study began and after it was over. The results were astounding. In addition to losing weight, lowering cholesterol, blood lipids, and improving blood sugars, the participants experienced major epigenetic changes. Over 500 genes were affected. 453 disease-promoting genes that were active before the study were now deactivated. And 48 cancer-fighting genes that were inactive are now activated. Just 3 months of healthy habits had turned the good genes on and the bad genes off. Is it possible for diabetic patients to experience similar results? Dr. Ornish believes so. It's an exciting finding, he reported, because so often people say, oh, it's all in my genes. What can I do? Well, it turns out that you may be able to do a lot. In just 3 months, I can change hundreds of my genes simply by changing what I eat and how I live. That's pretty exciting. The implications of our study are not limited to men with prostate cancer. We can learn another epigenetic lesson from a story that I like to call the tale of the fat yellow mouse. These 2 mice look very different. One is obese, the other is lean. One is yellow, the other is brown. One is sick, the other is healthy. But believe it or not, these mice are genetically identical. How is this possible? Dr. Randy Jirtle, a leading expert in the field of epigenetics, did a fascinating experiment on agouti mice. These laboratory mice are genetically bred to be obese. They are born with a yellow coat instead of a brown coat. These poor mice are genetically wired to gain weight rapidly and to develop diabetes, heart disease, and often cancer. They give birth to more agouti mice and the cycle of disease continues. Because of his interest in epigenetics, Dr. Jirtle decided to do an experiment on the agouti mice. He wanted to see what would happen when the mice were fed a special nutritional supplement in addition to their regular mouse chow. Imagine his surprise when the fat yellow mice soon began giving birth to lean, healthy brown-coated mice. These brown-coated offspring weren't at risk for the diseases of their parents. At first, Dr. Girdle and his team of researchers thought that the agouti gene had changed into offspring. However, testing revealed that the healthy brown mice had the exact same gene as their parents. It simply wasn't activated anymore. It had been switched off through diet. This is exciting news. A simple nutritional change made a profound genetic difference. Not only can our health choices improve our own genetic outcomes, they can also influence the health of future generations. Reflecting on the agouti mouse study, Dr. Girdle wrote, "Epigenetics is proving we have some responsibility for the integrity of our genome. Before genes predetermine outcomes, now everything we do, everything we eat or smoke can affect our gene expression and that of future generations. Epigenetics introduces the concept of free will into our idea of genetics." So what exactly is free will? The dictionary defines it as the ability to make choices that are not controlled by fate. What an empowering thought. If you are struggling with type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or any other lifestyle-related disease, you don't have to accept that disease as your destiny. Health has much more to do with choice than chance. So why not get started today? Every choice counts. Go for a walk. Eat some fresh vegetables. Go to sleep early. The simple choices you make each day will soon begin to turn your good genes on and your bad genes off. When I first started treating diabetes, I told my clients that as long as their food choices were healthy, they didn't need to pay attention to portion sizes. But it didn't take long to discover that this wasn't true. These clients had blood sugar spikes even while eating the healthiest of foods. I quickly learned the importance of meal balancing. In this video, we'll share some practical tips for balancing your meals and optimizing your portion sizes. Brenda, where do we start?
Well, that's a great question, Wes. The first meal balancing strategy is to eat 3 regularly scheduled meals every day. While 2 meals a day may work for some people, those with blood sugar issues generally do much better having 3 meals a day, and sometimes a very nutritious snack such as an apple and a few nuts. It's important to be consistent and feed your body when it's hungry. Regular meals are vital for stabilizing blood sugars. So how do we balance these meals? By making sure to get the right amounts of healthy carbs, proteins, and fats. First, let's talk about carbohydrates. The 2 most popular systems for helping people with diabetes to manage carbs are carbohydrate counting and exchange lists. Carbohydrate counting involves counting the grams of carbohydrate you eat and limiting them to an amount that will help you control your blood sugars and weight. For example, a person with diabetes might be allotted 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrate at each meal, and then count carbs by reading food labels or by using a diabetic exchange list. The American Diabetes Association's exchange system groups foods into 6 categories: starches and breads, meats and meat substitutes, vegetables, fruits, milk, and fats. People are allotted a certain number of servings from each list at every meal and snack. For example, a person with diabetes might be allotted 2 servings of bread or starch at each meal. 1 slice of bread, a half of a hamburger bun, a third of a cup of pasta or rice, 3/4 of a cup of cold cereal, and so forth. A serving from the meat group might include an ounce of meat or cheese, an egg, or a half a cup of beans. Both the carbohydrate counting method and the exchange method are designed to help balance blood sugars and weight. They can be useful, but they have some limitations. First, neither system adequately distinguishes between different forms of carbohydrate. The approach essentially ignores the vital differences in the nutritional value and blood sugar impact of these foods. With carb counting, 50 grams of carbohydrate from white bread could be viewed as equal to 50 grams of carbohydrate from beans, even though these foods impact blood sugars and health very differently. Foods that are low in carbohydrates, such as animal foods and pure fats, could mistakenly be viewed as healthy simply because of their low carbohydrate content. The exchange system has similar drawbacks. The starch list includes everything from sugar-frosted cereal to brown rice. The health effects of foods within the same group can be wildly different. The critical point here is that many current systems of diabetes management are only focused on blood sugar control. If we are to succeed at reversing diabetes, we need to shift our focus to reversing insulin resistance and restoring insulin sensitivity. The diet must be designed not only to support blood glucose control, but to reduce inflammation, to minimize oxidative stress, and to restore nutritional status. To accomplish this task, we need to make sure that every calorie supports healing. Healthy nutrition requires more than just eating a balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. There are healthy and unhealthy foods within each of these categories. Plant-based fats such as nuts, seeds, avocados, and olives impact the body far differently than saturated and trans fats found in the same category. Meat substitutes and tofu have similar protein content to meat or poultry, but are much lower in saturated fat and cholesterol. So if you do count carbs or use the exchange system, make sure to also pay attention to the nutrient quality of your food choices. The beauty of a green light diet for diabetes is that whole plant foods all contain unrefined carbohydrates and fiber. They cause a more gradual rise in blood sugars than refined processed foods. A green light diet will provide at least 35 to 50 grams of fiber, which will help to satisfy your appetite without extra calories. It doesn't mean that you should eat unlimited amounts of whatever type of plant foods you want, but it does mean that a whole food, plant-based diet places you at an advantage for blood sugar control. This diet has been shown to promote remarkable blood sugar improvements and weight loss in people with type 2 diabetes, even if calories are not restricted. Fortunately, it's easy to balance a green light diet. Step 1 is to include something from each food group, or at least 4 out of the 5 food groups at each meal. Let's begin with breakfast. You can include several food groups in a breakfast bowl. This is a healthier version of the traditional cereal-based breakfast. Begin by selecting your favorite fresh fruits: apples, peaches, mangoes, banana, and berries. Include at least one purple-blue fruit in the mix, like blueberries, blackberries, or stewed plums. I use Italian prune plums and prepare them by cooking them on a very low heat without anything added but a few drops of water to prevent sticking. Cook them until they're covered in their own juice. Include about 1.5 cups of fruits in total. Then select your grain. The very best choice is sprouted grains, such as kamut, spelt, and quinoa. Otherwise, you can cook intact whole grains like barley, oat groats, and rye. Visit our resource section for more information about cooking these grains. Once they're cooked, they can be stored in the refrigerator for up to a week. Once your grain is ready, you can add cinnamon, soy or nut milk, and nuts and seeds such as walnuts, chia, hemp, flax, and pumpkin seeds. Also add a chopped Brazil nut for selenium. I like to add some dehydrated buckwheat or oat granola, but that's optional. You can turn your breakfast bowl into a parfait by adding non-dairy yogurt. Other great breakfast options are scrambled tofu with greens and sweet potatoes. Add a fresh fruit as well. There are really no rules. One of the favorite breakfast offerings in the Marshall Islands was beans and greens. If you love toast with almond butter and banana, be sure to pick a heavy bread. A simple rule is it should be hard enough to stand on. I'm exaggerating a little, but you want to be choosing a very heavy bread, preferably made from sprouted grains. You don't have to eat vegetables at breakfast, but if you enjoy fresh pressed green juice, it can be a great start to your day. You can make it by juicing leafy greens, celery, cucumber, and perhaps adding a carrot or a beet. Green juice will actually significantly boost your antioxidant status and can calm inflammation and oxidation. For an extra kick, add some ginger and fresh turmeric. Lunch and dinner meals should include at least 6 servings of non-starchy vegetables, 2 to 4 servings in each meal. These are essentially free foods. They are unlimited and can help to fill you up. Make at least half of these raw. Cook the rest lightly. Steaming is a really good option. Include at least 1 to 2 servings of legumes with each meal. The best choices are beans, lentils, and peas. Tofu and tempeh are also excellent choices. Veggie meat should be selected less frequently. Next, add in your grains or starchy vegetables. For most people with diabetes, 1 to 2 servings per meal is plenty. Of course, active, healthy individuals will need more. A serving is about a half a cup of brown rice, barley, or quinoa. Remember to stick to green light choices. Whole food fats can be avocado, a cashew cheese sauce, or a few olives. You may want to use tahini for your salad dressing or an essential balance oil. Finally, include some fresh fruit, which is nature's perfect dessert. Crack open a few nuts to go with it if you like. For a fancier dessert, blend frozen bananas with berries and a little non-dairy milk to make a sugar-free soft ice cream. The real key to balancing meals is to include a reasonable source of protein, fat, and carbohydrate at every meal. The best choices are loaded with fiber, phytochemicals, and antioxidants. They are also nutrient dense, meaning that they have a lot of vitamins and minerals per calorie. Be sure to include plenty of water, about 8 cups a day or more for most people. You can also enjoy herbal teas, but avoid caloric beverages. Remember, you want to eat your calories, not drink them. If you're choosing healthy foods and controlling your portions, but your blood sugars are still spiking, you may want to use the glycemic index and glycemic load tools for further fine-tuning. The glycemic index, or GI, is a measure of how quickly blood sugars rise after eating 50 grams of carbohydrate from a particular food. Scores fall between 0 and 100. Foods with scores over 70 are considered to have a high glycemic index, which means that they tend to spike blood sugars. Foods with a low GI release sugar into the blood more slowly. Not surprisingly, many carbohydrates have high GI scores, while legumes, nuts, seeds, and non-starchy vegetables have very low scores. Not all low GI foods are healthy, but you can use this tool to make the best decisions about which green and yellow light foods to eat. A newer tool called the glycemic load is an even more accurate way to assess how different foods impact your blood sugars. This tool factors in the amount of carbohydrates you actually eat. You can find much more detail about this in Goodbye Diabetes or in my latest books, Becoming Vegan Comprehensive and Express editions. You can also find glycemic index information online or by talking to your dietitian. There are extensive charts on the internet that will tell you the glycemic index and glycemic load values for many different types of foods. Replacing high GI and high GL foods with low GI and low GL foods will help you better manage your blood sugars. As you put the meal balancing tools to work, make sure to check your blood sugars frequently and to work closely with your dietitian, doctor, and healthcare team. It may seem overwhelming at first, but with a little practice, meal balancing will become a simple habit. Before you know it, you'll start to heal, and your insulin sensitivity will begin to improve. In just a few short months, your body will essentially rebuild itself.
For many people with blood sugar problems, eating out can quickly throw a monkey wrench into the meal planning. But don't despair. With a little planning ahead, you can learn to be a defensive diner while still enjoying your favorite restaurants. Brenda, what advice can you give us about eating out?
Well, the good news is that healthy options are becoming more and more popular on restaurant menus. Almost all restaurants have a few decent options to choose from. Ethnic restaurants are usually a good bet. Asian, Mediterranean, Indian, and South American restaurants have multiple plant-based options. You could try a vegetable stir-fry with tofu, a bean burrito with veggies and salsa, rice and curry, or pita bread with falafel, hummus, and tabbouleh. Many people who embrace a plant-based diet have quite a bit of fun experimenting with so many new types of foods. Vegetarian and vegan restaurants offer some delicious and unique options. So if you're lucky enough to have a veggie restaurant near you, make sure to check it out. If you're heading out for fast food, look for a place that offers salads, veggie burgers, baked potatoes, vegetable sandwiches, or bean burritos. Many restaurant foods are filled with added calories and fat. Let's take a look at some simple tips to keep your calories under control while still enjoying your meals. First, avoid supersized portions. Restaurant portion sizes have grown exponentially in the past few decades, but our caloric needs have not. Try ordering small or half portions. Many restaurants offer half portions, which is still quite generous. Share your food with your dining partner, especially if you know the servings are generous. This automatically cuts your calories in half. A typical serving of pasta at an Italian restaurant is 3 to 4 cups. Cutting this in half still provides ample food. Avoid desserts. Many restaurant desserts have even more calories than the main entree. If you do go for dessert, choose fruit or sorbet. Make sure to share your dessert with someone else if you choose something more decadent from the menu. Ask for a take-home container and box up the extra food you don't need before you even start your meal. Ask for substitutions. Many restaurants will allow you to replace sides such as fries or white bread with a salad or some steamed vegetables. It never hurts to ask. Limit sides and extras. Bread, tortilla chips, French fries, and other freebies that come with your meal can put your calorie limit over the top before your main course even arrives. You can cut out a lot of calories by avoiding or limiting these fillers. Minimize fat consumption by avoiding fried or creamy foods and asking the chef to use less oil. Be careful with high-fat toppings such as butter, sour cream, grated cheese, salad dressings, and gravy. You can save calories by avoiding these toppings or having them served on the side so that you can serve yourself less. Select meals that are based on non-starchy vegetables and legumes. Vegetarian chili, lentil soup and salad, or a vegetable and tofu stir-fry are great options. If your choices are more starch-based, opt for unrefined carbohydrate sources such as brown rice, whole grain pasta, or yams. Make sure to minimize refined grains and sweets. Holidays and special occasions also pose some food challenges, but with a little planning ahead, you can enjoy these events in a very healthy way. When you're the person hosting, don't be afraid to serve nutritious food. Your meals can really help to inspire other people to experiment with delicious, healthy food. For appetizers, you could serve bruschetta, stuffed grape leaves, sushi rolls, raw veggies, or artichoke hearts. Your main course could be plant-based ethnic dishes, such as a Moroccan tagine, a Thai curry, or a Spanish paella. For dessert, you could serve a fruit salad with some thin, crispy cookies, a raw fruit pie, or baked apples or pears with cashew cream. When you're invited to a potluck or house party, bring a healthy dish to share, like a tray of vegetables with hummus, lentil soup, a salad, avocado sushi, or fresh fruit. You can increase your physical activity level during the holidays to help compensate for the extra calories you might eat. This will help you manage your weight and feel a whole lot better. You don't have to pass up on all your favorite treats at special events, but it's important to be selective and to eat with moderation. For example, if you absolutely love shortbread cookies, eat one or two, but avoid additional desserts at the same meal. At dinner, you can enjoy small portions of rich food such as mashed potatoes and stuffing, but make sure that most of your plate is filled with vegetables.
Following these simple steps will actually help you to enjoy restaurants, holidays, and special events even more than usual. Not only will you connect with people you care about, but you'll also enjoy the satisfaction of knowing that you're taking care of your health. Nancy is a great example of someone who enjoys special events and holidays while still making healthy choices. Let's listen to her story.
One of the issues that I was concerned about was I'm a big baseball fan. And when I was in Chicago, it was Cubs. Now that I'm out here on the outside of Washington, D.C., it's the Nationals. And I've had a partial season ticket package since they came in 2005. So I was worried about what I could eat at the ballpark. So I have two ways of dealing with that. Certainly I look around the ballpark and see what they have. I try to look on the website before I go. But now I've gotten used to what they have, and I have two choices. I use a powdered peanut butter that's 85% fat-free, and I'll make a peanut butter sandwich, and I only use the bread that's sprouted grain bread rather than any other kind of bread. And then I bring an apple and carrots or any other cut-up vegetables I have, and I'll have that at the ball game. The other thing is the ballparks now, most of them have something that's vegan that I can eat. They'll have a fruit cocktail, or they'll have vegetables, or there was a Korean barbecue at the Orioles at Camden Yards that I was able to eat. So there's so many different things out there now that are available to eat. And I travel a lot, and one of the things I do is I use an app on my phone called Happy Cow. So I'm able to find restaurants or health food stores that cater to my needs. I'll look for a Whole Foods frequently and stop there and bring something back to the hotel room, and then bring a cooler the next day and get lunch at Whole Foods and pack it in the cooler. Because it's true, on the turnpikes, there's not always healthy food. So I do a lot of thinking and planning ahead. I went to Turkey and Bulgaria, and I had I wouldn't say a problem eating in Bulgaria, but there were not a lot of choices. Turkey was completely different with the diet they have in Turkey. It was just a wonderful experience to eat there, and certainly all vegan. I have not gone off my vegan diet at all, nor have I ever felt the need to when I traveled. There's always fruits, there's always vegetables in a grocery store cut up, so there's always something I can eat. And I always travel with, in my purse, with a peanut bar. So that takes care of any emergencies that come along. I've already laid out my calendar for 2015 for the trips that I'm taking, and I don't think I would be able to do that if I had if my eyesight was going, if I'd had to go on kidney dialysis, if I'd lost a limb. I really think it would have been, in my mind, completely disastrous, as opposed to opportunities everywhere. Everywhere I turn, everywhere I look, I have opportunities.
Sister Mary and Lisa were two very different women. Sister Mary was an elderly woman who had been a nun for 40 years. Lisa was an island girl from Guam. Sister Mary almost died because she refused to take insulin. Lisa almost died because she took too much insulin. These women can teach us important lessons about drugs and diabetes. Let's start with Sister Mary. After struggling with type 2 diabetes for many years, Sister Mary's blood sugars were out of control. 200 to 250 before meals and 400 to 450 after meals. This placed her at imminent risk for heart attack and other serious complications. Mary's doctor was very concerned and tried many times to convince her that she needed to take insulin, but she wouldn't hear of it. She begged for another option. She tried oral meds. She promised to improve her lifestyle, but her blood sugars remained dangerously high. Sister Mary's doctor finally told her the only safe option was insulin, but she refused to take it. She actually started having panic attacks when she thought about it. Not knowing what to do, her doctor referred her to me. After reviewing Mary's labs, I realized that her pancreas had been seriously damaged from chronically high blood sugars. It was no longer capable of producing an adequate amount of insulin. Even though diet and exercise could help Mary, she also needed to take insulin. Her type 2 diabetes had actually become more like type 1. I explained to Mary that insulin really was the healthiest option, but she looked terrified. She sunk down in her chair and got very quiet. I knew there was some reason why Mary was so afraid, so I decided to ask why. I said, "Sister Mary, I can tell the thought of insulin is very frightening to you. What do you think will happen if you start taking insulin?" She looked up at me with a very sad face and finally said, "Dr. Youngberg, I don't want to die." "You mean you believe that insulin will make you die?" I said. "Well, yes," she said. She became very thoughtful for a few moments and then finally said, "My sister died when she started taking insulin. Her doctors tried to get her to take it for years, but she refused. When she finally agreed to start taking insulin, she was dead within 2 weeks." Once I understood Mary's fear, I was able to explain to her that the insulin hadn't caused her sister's death. Rather than being a problem, insulin was actually part of the solution. I still remember the look on her face when Mary finally understood. She had believed that insulin was a drug given during the final stages of life. So of course she didn't want to take it. But by the time she left my office, she was very willing to start taking insulin as part of her overall wellness program. That decision added years to her life. Lisa's story is very different. After many years of struggling with type 2 diabetes, Lisa was eager to improve her health. She had had a lot of trouble managing her diabetes, her blood sugars were constantly high, and her doctor had increased her insulin dose several times. When she started our wellness program, she was taking 80 units a day. But it didn't take long for Lisa's insulin needs to drop. After just 3 days of eating healthy and exercising after her meals, Lisa only needed 40 units per day, just half of what she had needed before. Believe it or not, Lisa's case isn't unusual. When a person starts making significant lifestyle improvements, it doesn't take long to see dramatic results. That's why it's very important to monitor your blood sugars frequently as you make lifestyle changes. You need to work closely with your doctor to adjust your insulin and other medications. If not, you'll be at risk of hypoglycemia. But back to Lisa. Just 10 days into her program, her blood sugars had dropped even more. We decreased her insulin dose to 20 units per day. But the next morning, my phone rang with some bad news. Lisa was in the hospital after having a severe hypoglycemic reaction. I didn't understand how this could have happened. We had already decreased her insulin by 75%. After making a few phone calls, I finally got the story. The evening before, we checked Lisa's blood sugar after she ate dinner. It was 150, which is a fairly good level for a diabetic after a meal. But after she went home, Lisa checked her blood sugar again, this time with her own monitor. It was 300. Lisa called her diabetes nurse to let her know. The nurse didn't realize the changes Lisa was making in our program, so she was shocked that her insulin had been cut to 20 units per day. She immediately called the doctor, who ordered Lisa to take 40 units of insulin right away and also to increase her daily dose to 40 units. Lisa took the 40 units but soon started to feel horrible. She was confused and shaky. A few hours later, she was unconscious. Her husband rushed her to the ER, where she was treated for severe hypoglycemia and admitted to the hospital. I knew that there was no way Lisa's blood sugar had actually been 300. So I asked her to bring her glucose monitor into the clinic the next time she came to class. She showed up that evening after being released from the hospital. Sure enough, my suspicion was correct. Lisa's blood sugar was 105 on our meter, but 258 on hers. Lisa almost lost her life because her glucometer was giving incorrect readings. Although Lisa's experience was scary, she was still thrilled that she was able to decrease her insulin so much. Pretty soon, she went off insulin altogether. Lisa represents millions of diabetics who could significantly decrease their need for insulin and other diabetes medications simply by optimizing their lifestyles. I've had many clients come to me with the goal of getting off their medications. This can be a good goal, but I think it should be refocused. I'd rather that a client tell me, I want to improve my health so much that I can decrease or even eliminate my need for medication. Like Lisa, most type 2 diabetics have the potential to improve their health so much that they no longer need medications at all. Diabetics like Sister Mary may need to take insulin, but good lifestyle habits will improve their health and decrease the amount of insulin that they need. When the focus is on improving health, everyone wins. But let's take a closer look at diabetes medications. How do they impact the body? And what are the advantages of decreasing meds or discontinuing them when possible? Let's start with insulin. The discovery of insulin in the 1920s was nothing short of a miracle. Prior to that time, type 1 diabetes always led to death. People didn't know what caused it or how to stop it. But Dr. Frederick Banting and several of his colleagues changed the course of medical history by discovering what insulin was and finding ways to extract it from the pancreas of large animals. At first, they tested their insulin extract on dogs, but soon it became safe enough for humans. In 1922, 14-year-old Leonard Thompson became the first diabetic to take insulin. As he lay dying in the hospital, he was injected with the extract, and he quickly revived to life. Soon, insulin was being mass-produced and saving the lives of many young people who would have no hope otherwise. Dr. Banting actually received a Nobel Prize for his contribution. Today, insulin continues to sustain the lives of millions of people with type 1 diabetes as well as others with type 2 diabetes. But if insulin is so effective, why can't everyone just depend on it for diabetes management? Well, it's not quite that simple. As we've learned earlier, the root cause of type 2 diabetes and prediabetes is insulin resistance. It is possible to force blood sugars down by taking extra insulin, but this doesn't address the cause of the problem. Even worse, the extra high insulin levels lead to weight gain and increase the risk of cancer, hypertension, heart disease, and many other health problems. That's why it's so important for pre-diabetics and type 2 diabetics to reduce insulin resistance through healthy lifestyle habits. Lifestyle can also help type 1 diabetics to significantly decrease the amount of insulin they need. What about oral medications for diabetes and prediabetes? There are many people who take these drugs and many different medications are available. However, several studies have shown that even the best of these drugs aren't as effective as lifestyle. Metformin is one of the most popular oral medications for controlling blood sugars. But a large clinical trial conducted by the Diabetes Prevention Program found that metformin just can't compete with a healthy lifestyle. The study found that pre-diabetics who took metformin but didn't change their lifestyles were almost 2 times more likely to develop full-blown diabetes than pre-diabetics who exercised and followed a healthy diet plan. Did you catch the significance of that? Diet and exercise were almost twice as effective as metformin, and they didn't have any negative side effects. Oral diabetes medications come with a variety of side effects, including weight gain, kidney and liver damage, GI upset, hypoglycemia, infections, and increased risk of heart attack and stroke. Lifestyle changes like nutrition and exercise only have positive side effects. In closing, I'd like to suggest a new paradigm that will help you prioritize your health decisions. I call it first, second, and third line therapy. First line therapy is where you should start. It includes healthy nutrition, exercise, water, sleep, and sunlight. These powerful lifestyle tools should be your top health priority. Many people can prevent or reverse diabetes by simply using first line therapy. After all, the best way to reclaim your health is to treat your body the way it was designed to be treated. First line therapy is the safest, most affordable, and most effective treatment option. Second line therapy involves adding appropriate nutritional supplements to your health plan. First-class foods are full of great nutrients, but sometimes the body becomes deficient and needs extra vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, and other nutrients. There are also several supplements available that can help control blood sugars without the possible side effects of medications. If you're interested in learning more about these, check out the handout that goes along with this video, or you can also read chapter 20 of my book, Goodbye Diabetes. Third line therapy involves insulin, oral diabetes medications, and other pharmaceutical drugs. If you've done your very best to lower your blood sugars through first and second line therapy, but are still running high blood sugars, you may need to consider medication. Remember, the C-peptide test we discussed in step 3 can help you determine whether or not you'll need medication long term. But first line therapy is still the priority. Health isn't just about blood sugars. Whether you're on medication or not, your health will greatly benefit as you treat your body the way it was designed to be treated. I still remember the day Jason's pants fell off. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of his life, but he was glad it happened. Let me explain. After spending a month in our diabetes reversal program, Jason's health had dramatically improved. He was off his insulin and had lowered his cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood pressure. So I was surprised when he came to me one day wanting to quit the program. Dr. Youngberg, you said, I don't think this is working for me. It's already been a month and I'm not getting better. What do you mean you're not getting better, I said. We've seen so many improvements. But I haven't lost a single pound, Jason said. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, they told me if I lost 30 pounds, I would dramatically improve my health. I encouraged Jason that he was on the right track. Even though he hadn't lost a single pound, his health had dramatically improved. Even if the number on the scale wasn't changing, he was losing fat and building muscle. After our visit, Jason went to lift weights at the gym. He walked over to the weight rack, picked up a 45-pound barbell, and turned to put it on the bench press bar. But before he knew what was happening, his pants slid off his hips down to his ankles. He was standing in the middle of a crowded gym with people all around him, but he couldn't pull his pants back up because he was still holding on to the weight. But Jason was too happy to be embarrassed for long. The fact that his pants had fallen off meant that he was losing inches and getting lean. Like Jason, many people believe that their health won't improve until they lose a large amount of weight. But this isn't true. The benefits of healthy lifestyle choices begin immediately.
And that's why your primary focus should be health. If you focus only on weight, it's easy to become discouraged because healthy weight loss is a gradual process, often taking several months or even years. When you choose healthy lifestyle behaviors, your blood sugars, cholesterol, and triglycerides may change drastically within just a few short days or weeks. This will significantly reduce your risk and improve the way you feel. But weight changes occur more slowly, so be patient with yourself during this process. Let's take a closer look at the connection between overweight and diabetes. Excess weight exponentially increases diabetes risk. Overweight people are 2 to 8 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than those at an ideal body weight. Obese individuals are 10 to 40 times more likely to develop the condition. When we store excess body fat, free fatty acids are released into the circulation, and over time, these fatty acids accumulate in body tissues and cause lipotoxicity, a condition which impairs cell function and triggers insulin resistance. This chart from the National Diabetes Education Program can help you determine whether your weight puts you at risk for diabetes. You can pause the video to find your results. This chart is based on body mass index, or BMI. Many doctors use BMI to monitor their patients' weight and risk. BMI is a rough estimate of body fatness, but it does have several limitations. First of all, it's not gender specific. It doesn't account for the fact that males usually carry more weight than females of the same height. Another limitation is that BMI doesn't account for body composition, which refers to the percentage of weight that is muscle versus the percentage of weight that is fat. Excess fat promotes disease, but muscle does not. It's possible to have a healthy BMI number, but to still have a higher percentage of body fat than is healthy. For example, some people have thin frames, but still high body fat percentages. It's also possible to have a high BMI and be very lean and fit. This is often the case for athletes and people in the military. That's why testing body composition is a more accurate way to determine risk. There are several ways to calculate body composition, including bioelectrical impedance, skin fold calipers, and underwater weighing. These different methods vary in convenience, price, and accuracy, so you can talk to your doctor, physical therapist, or someone at your local gym about testing your body composition. The World Health Organization and the National Institutes of Health have developed these charts to help you know whether or not your body composition puts you at risk for disease. You can pause this video to find your results. The healthiest place to be on these charts is at the lower end of the healthy range, but not all fat is created equal. Fat in the belly and midsection is the most dangerous. People who are apple-shaped have a higher risk than people who are pear-shaped. Waist circumference is also a good way to measure risk. Use a flexible tape measure and measure around the smallest part of your waist. Don't suck your waist in or pull the tape measure too tight. The American Institute of Cancer Research suggests that men keep their waist circumference under 37 inches and women under 31.5 inches to minimize the risk of disease. However, one study showed that men with 34 to 36 inch waists actually double the risk for diabetes compared to men with waists under 34 inches. If you have a small frame, your ideal waist size may need to be smaller than guidelines suggest. Another tool to determine risk is waist to hip ratio, which compares your waist circumference to your hip circumference. To measure your hip circumference, place the tape measure around the widest portion of your hips. You can then calculate your waist to hip ratio, which equals waist circumference divided by hip circumference. For example, if your waist is 35 inches and your hips are 37 inches, your waist to hip ratio is 0.95. In other words, your waist is 5% smaller than your hips. Optimal waist-hip ratios for females are less than 0.75 and for males less than 0.85. Keeping your waist-to-hip ratio at the optimal level will reduce your risk for diabetes and heart disease. There are, of course, limitations to every weight measurement, but if you combine these different tests, it should give you a good indication as to whether or not your weight or body composition puts you at risk. But then what? What practical things can you do to improve your weight and become more lean and fit? Let's take a look at 8 simple steps to lifelong healthy weights. First, ignore the diet industry. Frequent dieting actually leads to a cycle of weight gain and discouragement. Diets that promise rapid results are unsafe and ineffective. Healthy weight loss might be as slow as half a pound each week, and I don't recommend losing more than 2 pounds in a week. So instead of trying a new diet, try a new lifestyle. The only way to manage your weight in the long run is to choose a plan you can stick with for the rest of your life. Second, center your diet on whole plant foods without added sugar, fat, and salt. Minimize your use of refined and processed foods. Follow the meal balancing strategies you've already learned to control your portion sizes. Eat healthy fats, but not too many of them. And make sure to get a good breakfast, which will jumpstart your metabolism and help you burn more calories all day long. Third, be active. Physical activity is essential for weight management. Our upcoming exercise module will show you how to set up an activity program that works for you. An added bonus of exercise is that it releases feel-good endorphins into your bloodstream. These chemicals boost the mood and diminish cravings for unhealthy foods. Fourth, use beverages to your advantage. Juices, sodas, and many other beverages are full of empty calories that can sabotage your weight loss goals. Water is your best bet. Often when we're dehydrated, we mistake that feeling for hunger and overeat. To prevent this, drink plenty of water between your meals. Fifth, get adequate sleep. Sleep directly impacts the hormones that influence weight. Ghrelin is a hormone that stimulates hunger, while leptin stimulates fullness. Sleep deprivation increases ghrelin production and decreases leptin production. This means that you're more likely to be hungry when you're tired, regardless of how many calories your body needs. This helps explain why people with the highest body fat percentages are also those who get the least amount of sleep. Sixth, build healthy habits. Eat regular meals. Skipping meals can make you so hungry that you overeat at your next meal. Watch your portion sizes. Using a smaller plate can help. Eat slowly. This will help you enjoy your food and will reduce the amount you eat. Do not eat standing. Always put your food in a bowl or on a plate and sit down to eat. Don't eat mindlessly, especially while watching TV. Keep your hands busy doing something else. 7, be persistent. If you mess up, forgive yourself and start over. Don't get discouraged. Weight loss is a gradual process. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And 8, take care of your inner being. Food was designed to satisfy our physical hunger, but many people turn to it to cope with stress, loneliness, and other negative emotions. Emotional eating provides temporary relief, but then leaves one feeling worse than before. If you struggle with emotional eating, look for ways to take care of your feelings without turning to food. If you're stressed, take a short walk, listen to music, or call a friend. If you're lonely, find someone to spend time with. If you're angry, allow yourself to cool down without reaching for food. You were designed to experience optimal health, body, mind, and spirit. The things that affect your emotional health also affect your physical health and vice versa. So make sure you're setting aside time to take good care of you.
Thank you, Brenda. Those are some valuable insights that I hope will bring significant encouragement to anyone who's been watching this video. This is the last video that Brenda is co-hosting with me, and I'm sure you've enjoyed her insights just as much as I have. Remember to visit her website, brendadavisrd.com, for more excellent information about nutrition.
Thank you so much, Wes. It's been a tremendous privilege for me to be involved, and I just am so inspired by the work that you've been doing. And for all those watching, I'd like to leave you with a special word of encouragement. With a diagnosis of diabetes or prediabetes, I'm sure you've been through a lot. But remember, there's hope for change. Regardless of how discouraging your situation may seem, I'm confident that the tools we've shared in this course can bring healing and hope into your life. You shouldn't settle for anything less.
We've learned how what we eat affects us, but what about the things we drink? Today we have more beverage options than ever before. A wide variety of juices, sodas, coffees, teas, energy drinks, milks, and alcoholic beverages are readily available. How can we navigate through these options to make the healthiest choices? Brenda, let's take a look at the green light, yellow light, and red light beverages.
All right, Bess. First, let's talk about water, the most important green light beverage. Pure, clean water works wonders for our health. It has too many health benefits to count, but just to name a few, water improves our circulation, purifies the blood, optimizes brain function, enhances immunity, aids digestion, prevents overeating, and it helps to stabilize blood sugars. So try to drink at least half an ounce of water for every pound that you weigh. For example, if you weigh 160 pounds, you should try to drink at least 80 ounces. There are 8 ounces in a cup, so that equals about 10 cups of water each day. If you want more variety, you can try herbal teas or add a squeeze of fresh lemon or lime juice to your water. Fresh pressed vegetable juices are also green light beverages. They contain many healing nutrients. If you're purchasing these beverages, make sure to read your labels. Many of the vegetable juices available in grocery stores have added fruit or fruit juice concentrates, and these can spike blood sugars. Instead, choose fresh pressed options that are sugar and additive free. Milk replacements such as soy, nut, and grain milks can also be considered first-class beverages. These are excellent replacements for regular milk. You can pair them with first-class grain cereals for breakfast or use them in cooking. Unsweetened varieties are the best option. Other varieties have added sugar. Be sure to read the label and remember that every 4 grams of sugar is equal to a teaspoon.
You know, Brenda, many people think that fruit juices are very healthy too, but they're actually in the yellow light category. Can you tell us why?
Oh, of course. 100% fruit juice is healthier than many other drinks and contains vitamins and minerals. However, it can dramatically spike blood sugars. That's why even 100% fruit juice is a yellow light food. The best way to eat fruit is in its whole natural form, which is packaged with fiber and is much more gentle on blood sugars. If you do decide to drink fruit juice, make sure that you squeeze your own, and if you end up buying it in the grocery store, at least make sure it has no added sugars. Red light beverages include sweet drinks, coffee, energy drinks, and alcohol. Let's examine each of these. First of all, sweet drinks are beverages with added sweeteners. These drinks include soda, sweetened fruit juice, sweetened teas, sports and energy drinks, vitamin water, and some commercial smoothies and blended sweet coffee drinks. Sweet drinks are full of sugar and empty calories, but very low in nutrients. They spike blood sugars very rapidly and easily lead to inflammation and weight gain. The average American now drinks 45 gallons of sugary drinks every year. That's about 2 cups each day, and it totals 39 pounds of extra sugar. Drinking just 1 can of soda per day increases the risk of diabetes by 22%, regardless of the amount of total calories consumed. Unfortunately, diet sodas and artificially sweetened beverages aren't much better. They may be calorie-free, but it doesn't mean they're healthy. A 2014 study reported that artificial sweeteners cause adverse changes to our gut bacteria, which leads to insulin resistance. Other studies suggest that these drinks may promote weight gain, lead to digestive problems, and increase the risk of heart disease and cancer.
Many people find this hard to understand. They wonder how something without calories can promote weight gain and disease. But artificial sweeteners are like drugs or chemicals. Drugs can be calorie-free but still promote weight gain and other side effects. That's why I encourage my clients to completely avoid artificial sweeteners, whether they're in beverages or food. I also encourage them to avoid coffee, energy drinks, and alcohol, which I consider to be red light drinks. Drinking coffee, energy drinks, and other caffeinated beverages is like living on credit. You may get a temporary energy boost, but with regular consumption, these drinks lead to anxiety, insomnia, and potential addiction. They may also negatively impact the adrenal system and bone health. Brenda, can you tell us why alcoholic beverages belong in the red light category?
Oh, sure, Wes. Well, some experts might argue that alcohol should be a yellow light drink. I believe it fits squarely in the red light category. Even small amounts of alcohol have been linked to cancers of the breast, liver, rectum, throat, mouth, and esophagus. Larger amounts can lead to alcoholism and multiple health and safety concerns. Some studies seem to indicate that moderate alcohol consumption increases good cholesterol and reduces the risk of ischemic stroke and diabetes. However, there are other ways to reduce these risks besides alcohol, which is damaging in so many other ways. Some studies have claimed that red wine is good for cardiovascular health, but according to the American Heart Association, No direct comparison trials have been conducted to validate this claim. The health benefits reported are more likely to be explained by other lifestyle factors, not alcohol. The American Heart Association actually cautions people not to start drinking to reduce heart disease risk if they do not already drink alcohol. All in all, the risks of alcohol far outweigh the benefits, especially when the social costs are factored in. And that concludes our discussion on beverages. Remember, choosing pure, clean water is the best way to drink to your health.
Most people spend almost a third of their lives sleeping. That's a long time. Sometimes we're tempted to think that sleep is a waste of time. In his book, Poor Richard's Almanac, Benjamin Franklin wrote, "Waste not life. There will be sleeping enough in the grave." But is sleep really unproductive? I don't think so. In fact, I've personally found that the amount of sleep I get will directly determine how successful I am in all other aspects of health. If I'm well rested, I'm much more likely to feel motivated to exercise, to eat healthy, and to make good choices. But if I get behind on sleep, it doesn't take long for other aspects of my health to suffer too. And I know I'm not the only one. Research shows that sleep deprivation damages the body in multiple ways, increasing the risk of diabetes, obesity, heart disease, stroke, etc. Your sleep habits directly affect your blood sugars. In one study, healthy young adults were only allowed to sleep for 4 hours each night. After just 6 days, their blood sugars fit the criteria for prediabetes. That's a rapid change. Sleep deprivation can induce a pre-diabetic state in less than 1 week. But even one night of sleep deprivation can trigger insulin resistance the next day. Sleep deprivation also causes hormonal changes that can increase hunger and lead to weight gain. There's no question that sleep is a powerful ally in your quest for optimal health. This simple habit will reduce your risk of disease, help control your blood sugars, improve your memory and mood, and help you live each day to the fullest. It's amazing how much you can accomplish while you're unconscious. Let's discuss a few simple tips that will help you improve the quality and quantity of your sleep. First, set a sleep schedule. Your body thrives on consistency. It's designed to follow a 24-hour pattern called a circadian rhythm. This is like an internal body clock that helps regulate your energy levels. Sticking to a regular bedtime and waking time will optimize your circadian rhythm and boost your energy. Try to set an early bedtime. Believe it or not, the sleep you get before midnight is actually deeper and more restorative than the sleep you get after midnight. It's much better to sleep 8 hours from 10 to 6 than it is to sleep for 8 hours from midnight to 8. Most adults need between 7 and 8 hours of quality sleep. Children and teenagers need more. So why not start tonight? I guarantee if you stick to a regular bedtime and waking time, it won't take long to notice big improvements in how you feel. Second, get regular exercise. Research shows that people who exercise fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and have better quality sleep than people who don't. Exercise boosts the production of melatonin, a hormone that helps you sleep. It also puts a healthy strain on your heart and muscles, which cause you to be tired at bedtime. But make sure you do your vigorous exercise early in the day. A heavy workout right before bed will tend to interfere with sleep. Third, soak up the sun. Getting bright light, especially early in the morning, is very beneficial to your circadian rhythm. Early morning light will signal your body that it's time to wake up, which will help you feel more alert and energetic. 16 hours later, your circadian rhythm will be right on track to remind you it's time to go to sleep. Fourth, be careful with naps. If you need to take a nap, make sure it's short and that it's early in the day. Long naps, especially late in the afternoon, can throw your circadian rhythm off and make it really difficult to go to sleep at bedtime. Fifth, don't eat late. It takes several hours after eating to digest your food. The digestive system needs to rest too. Try to eat dinner 3 to 4 hours before going to sleep. Ideally, it will be the lightest meal of the day. Your energy needs are lowest at the end of the day, so following this advice will help you to manage your weight and to sleep better. 6, say no to caffeine. Many people depend on caffeine to get through the day. Caffeine may work in the short term, but it's like living on credit. Caffeine forces the adrenal glands to work overtime, which leads to premature aging and fatigue. It also compromises the quality of your sleep. If your goal is long-term energy and wellness, you need to say no to caffeine and other artificial stimulants. 7, optimize your sleep environment. Make sure the room that you sleep in is dark, quiet, and a little bit cool. The body produces more melatonin when you sleep in the dark. The optimal room temperature for sleeping is 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's fine to use blankets to keep your body warm, but breathing in air that's slightly cool will improve the quality of your sleep. If possible, dim the lights for a while before heading to bed. Avoid artificial screen lighting from your phone and computer. These little bedtime habits will trigger your body to get ready for sleep. And 8th, learn to manage stress. Unresolved stress can lead to insomnia. If there's something in your life that keeps you up at night, do what you can to resolve it. Find supportive people to talk to. Take care of your emotional health. When you go to sleep each night, make the choice to let go of the day's problems. Tomorrow is another day, and it will come soon enough. Now that we've learned about sleep, it's time to explore rest. Sleep and rest aren't the same thing. The dictionary defines rest as to cease work in order to relax, refresh oneself, or recover strength. Rest isn't just about being still. It's about taking a break to do things that restore you. It's easy to get caught up in the rat race of life. Between work, family, and other responsibilities, we often fall into survival mode and forget to rest. The problem is, when we're too busy, we forget what's most important. Our health suffers, our relationships suffer, and we don't experience the joy that we were designed for. I believe that many mental and physical illnesses could be prevented simply by taking time to rest. I want you to benefit from rest. Schedule some time each day to do something relaxing and fun. You could read a book, go for a walk, spend time with family, journal, listen to music, or do any other activity that brings you peace and joy. Resting a little bit each day is beneficial, but resting an entire day each week may be even more important. A report in National Geographic revealed that Seventh-day Adventists are one of the longest living people groups on the planet. One of the longevity secrets of the Adventists is that they set aside every Saturday as a special day of rest. They call it the Sabbath. That's why one of my favorite health strategies is to rest on the Sabbath. The word Sabbath simply means to cease. On this day, I take a break from all my usual work activities. I don't run errands or work around the house. Instead, I enjoy spending time with my family, with God, and in nature. I also enjoy doing outreach activities that I don't have time for during the work week. I can't tell you how much I look forward to this special day each week. It really helps rejuvenate me, making me more productive the rest of the week. Sabbath rest is helpful for my physical, social, and spiritual health. In fact, I believe it's one of the most rewarding of all possible health strategies. But to all of us, we can't make it through life without the help and support of others. Social support significantly impacts our health. Dr. Dean Ornish is a respected physician and researcher. In the 1990s, he proved to the medical community for the first time that heart disease is reversible. He's helped many people reverse diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic health conditions. What lifestyle strategies does he recommend? 4 things: a healthy, plant-based diet, regular exercise, stress management, and last but not least, love and support. Some of Ornish's critics have claimed that while nutrition and exercise are important, the other factors are just fluff. But Ornish disagrees. Listen to his quote. "I am not aware of any other factor in medicine that has a greater impact on our survival than the healing power of love and intimacy. Not diet, not smoking, not exercise, not stress, not genetics, not drugs, not surgery." Dr. Ornish's book, Love and Survival, outlines the scientific evidence for the healing power of love and intimacy. For example, several studies have shown that people who report having close social ties have less arterial blockage than people who report feeling isolated and alone, even when other factors are accounted for. Strong social support has been linked to lower rates of depression and mental illness, faster recovery from surgery, decreased rates of heart disease, higher survival rates in cancer victims, and a host of other health benefits. A study from the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that employees in supportive social work environments were 22% less likely to develop type 2 diabetes over the course of just 3 years than those who didn't feel supported or connected at work. Clearly, there's a strong connection between healthy relationships and a healthy body. That's why it's so important to build and maintain a positive social support system. How can you do this? Let's look at 5 ways. First of all, invest in people. It's easy to get so busy that we forget to plan social time into our lives, but this is extremely important. Make people a priority. Plan ahead each week to spend quality time with your family and your friends. Get involved in your community. Join a club or a support group. The more you invest in your relationships, the more you'll benefit from them. Secondly, form a health support system. You can't do it alone. This support system can include your healthcare providers, as well as your family and your close friends. Share your goals with the people who care about you the most and ask them to support and even join you in your health journey. Third, find a health buddy. It's so helpful to connect with other people who have similar health goals. You can find an exercise buddy, a nutrition buddy, or anyone who's moving the same direction you are. You can encourage each other and hold each other accountable. Don't underestimate the power of 2. Fourth, reach up. You're probably familiar with the 12-step program, which has helped many people find freedom from addictions. This program teaches that human effort alone is not enough to create change. The second step states, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I believe this principle is true, not only for people struggling with addiction, but for everyone. I found personally that to truly be successful in living a healthy life, I need to be connected with a higher power. Without wisdom and strength of a spiritual nature, I find that my willpower just isn't strong enough. Many of my clients find that faith and prayer make a tremendous difference in reaching their health goals. We'll explore this more towards the end of the course. But in the meantime, if prayer is something you're comfortable with, it's a powerful strategy to include in your health plan. Fifth, reach out. Helping others is one of the most powerful health strategies. Find people who you can encourage and help in tangible ways. As you focus on blessing someone else, your own life and health will improve. Are you looking for change in your life? Reach out to bless someone else. Before you know it, you'll be blessed too.
you.